He grabbed his wife's arm, ready to teach her a lesson.
Well, I wish you were.
But just then, someone stepped in to defend her.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Say it again.
When Vincent realized the man mocking him wore glasses, his face darkened, and he immediately turned his fury on the stranger. Seeing that Mike never fought back, Vincent grew even bolder. He snatched Mike's KFC right out of his hands and started wolfing it down, then deliberately spat into the food. But Vincent wasn't finished yet. He shoved the tray back in front of Mike and ordered him to eat every last bite. Mike refused to comply and just glared at him with burning anger. Sensing Mike's hostility, Vincent actually pulled a knife from his pocket.
Vince, please.
Shut up!
With the situation turning against him, Mike finally spoke up. Instead of backing down, he laid out two choices for Vincent. Option 1, go ahead and beat him up, but be ready to spend time behind bars. Option 2, be smart. Walk away right now. After hearing this, Vincent did drop the idea of getting physical. He just threw out a few threats and turned to leave. After all, the place was covered with security cameras, and if the whole thing got caught on tape, he'd definitely pay the price. Before leaving, Vincent was still seething, so he took out his anger on Mike's car, kicking off the side mirror. Then he jumped into his SUV, slammed on the gas, and sped off. Only after Mary saw with her own eyes that her husband was long gone did she finally work up the courage to approach Mike. She thanked him for stepping in and offered to make him some homemade KFC as a thank you. What Mary didn't notice was the strange look of anticipation in Mike's eyes. About 10 minutes later, Mike came back to his car with a roll of tape. After patching up the broken mirror, he hit the road again. But before long, heavy snow started falling from the sky. Another half hour later, his gas tank was running on empty. With no other choice, Mike pulled into a nearby gas station to fill up. Just as he was about to start pumping, Vincent happened to spot him. Turns out he hadn't really left at all. He'd been lying in wait the whole time, looking for a chance to get even. The moment Mike pulled out of the gas station, Vincent started tailing him. By now, snow was coming down hard, and everything around them was buried under a thick blanket of white. Vincent stuck close to Mike's bumper the entire way. On such an open road, Mike soon spotted the familiar SUV in his rearview mirror. He immediately realized the guy was out for revenge. Mike floored it, pushing his speed up to 180 miles per hour. When he hit a curve that blocked the line of sight, he quickly cut the wheel and turned onto a side road, killed the headlights, and hid the car in the dark. Vincent drove right past the turnoff without a clue, completely missing Mike hiding there with his lights off. Once Vincent's car disappeared into the distance, Mike started his engine back up and got ready to keep going. But new trouble showed up fast. The snow was coming down harder than ever, and the road ahead was getting swallowed up by the storm. Mike reached out to wipe the windshield, but in that split second of distraction, the car suddenly lost control and plowed straight into a thick snowbank by the side of the road. He'd managed to shake Vincent, but now his car was buried in snow and stuck. No matter how hard he hit the gas, the wheels just spun in place, going nowhere.
Come on! Fuck!
With no other option, Mike got out to see what he could do, trying to push the car out of the snow with his own strength. But no matter how hard he pushed, the car wouldn't budge an inch. Then he bent down and started clearing the snow around the tires with his bare hands. Within 10 seconds, the brutal cold had him crying out in pain. Mike scrambled back into the car, cranked up the heater, and tried to thaw out his frozen body. Next, he pulled out his iPhone 17 to call for help, only to find he was so far out in the middle of nowhere that there was zero signal. Out of options, Mike had no choice but to stay in the car and wait for someone to come by. To make his battery last as long as possible, he even shut off the car's power. Time ticked by, and before he knew it, Mike had dozed off against the seat. When he opened his eyes the next morning, a layer of frost had formed on his cheeks and eyebrows. Looking out at the storm raging harder than ever, Mike knew staying put wasn't going to cut it. So he gathered up his things and decided to head out and find help. But just as he was about to leave, he popped open the trunk, and what he found inside wasn't tools. It was Mary. Mike might have looked like a clean-cut, polite guy on the outside, but underneath, he was a dangerous predator with twisted intentions. He'd stepped in for Mary earlier just to win her trust, but his plan got thrown off when her husband showed up. Now stuck in this mess, Mike had to figure out a way out. He pushed through the snowstorm and into the woods, hoping to find a house up ahead. But all he saw was endless white in every direction. The biting wind cut right through him, and Mike quickly gave up on finding help. To avoid freezing to death, he had no choice but to head back to the car for warmth. Meanwhile, Mary, locked in the trunk, was slowly working her way free. She pushed down the back seat, squeezed through the narrow gap, and bolted out the door. Mary knew she had to get away before Mike came back, so she ran as fast as her legs would carry her. But before long, she ran into the same problem Mike had. It was so brutally cold outside that even if she got away, she'd probably just freeze to death out there in the snow. With no other choice, she headed back to the car. After catching her breath for a moment, Mary climbed up to the front and started digging through the car for anything useful. First, she found a roll of duct tape. Then she stumbled across a bottle of some kind of drug, clearly the stuff he'd used to knock her out. Meanwhile, Mike was on his way back to the car when disaster struck. He stepped into a hunter's trap and badly twisted his leg. But in conditions like these, he couldn't afford to lie there. He knew every minute he stayed out there brought him that much closer to freezing. Driven by pure survival instinct, Mike gritted his teeth and dragged himself toward the car bit by bit. Lucky for him, the car wasn't too far away. After a brutal struggle, he finally made it back inside. The most important thing now was to take care of his wound before it got infected, because if that happened, he'd be in serious trouble. While he was cutting open his pant leg to check the damage, Mary was hiding in the back, quietly watching everything and waiting for her chance to strike. Just then, Mike turned to grab some tools and noticed the glove compartment had been searched through. He immediately knew something was off. Using the rearview mirror to confirm someone had been messing with his stuff, he quietly reached for the knife next to him. At the same time, Mary picked up on the danger too. Just as Mike's hand was about to close around the knife, she sprang out and clamped a drug-soaked towel over his nose and mouth. Within moments, Mike was out cold, slumped in his seat. Then Mary grabbed the knife and held the blade against Mike's throat. She wanted to end him while he was unconscious, but in the end, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Instead, she used the duct tape to tie him down tight so he couldn't be a threat anymore.
You son of a bitch! You planned this all along?
Mike admitted the whole thing had been planned from the start, and with a smug tone, he bragged to Mary about how he used the drug, sure that this woman in front of him would never actually go through with anything. Watching Mike's smug face, Mary covered his nose and mouth with the towel again, and he was out cold once more. By the time Mike woke up, it was getting dark outside. Mary suddenly had to use the bathroom, so she decided to step out of the car to go. Before leaving, she warned Mike not to try anything, then got out. But the second she was gone, Mike struggled to reach the keys and pressed the button to lock the windows. Mary got locked out, and when she tried to get back in, the doors wouldn't budge. At 50 below zero, the human body can freeze solid in no time. With things looking dire, Mary spotted a suitcase in the snow. She grabbed it and started smashing it against the window with everything she had. Maybe because of how cold it was, the window broke pretty quickly. Mary climbed in through the window, grabbed the seatbelt, and yanked it tight around Mike's neck, nearly choking him to death. But at the last second, she let go. With the window broken, the inside of the car was basically the same as outside now. To keep herself from freezing to death, Mary sealed the broken window with duct tape. Once things settled down, Mike calmed down, and Mary found tons of videos and photos of herself on his phone. It was obvious he'd been planning this for a long time. Then she found a box in his car full of IDs from several different women. It wasn't hard to guess. Those girls had probably already met a terrible end. Mary pressed Mike on why he picked her, and his answer was blunt and cold. Because she was divorced and lived alone, which made her the easiest target in his eyes. By day 3, both their faces were covered in frostbite, and their bodies were going numb. To make things worse, the car wouldn't start at all anymore. To hold out until help arrived, Mary curled up against Mike to share body heat. The two of them shivered together in the cold, sharing stories about their lives, afraid that if they let their guard down for a second, they'd slip into a sleep they wouldn't wake up from. Just when Mary thought they'd set aside their feud for the sake of survival, Mike suddenly broke free from his restraints. The cold had made the tape brittle, and he overpowered Mary in an instant, flipping the situation on its head. As the two of them were wrestling, a huge crash rang out, and the windshield shattered and flew off. Mike looked outside in horror. A massive beast with antlers had appeared in the storm. Then he felt something dragging him out. In a panic, Mike grabbed onto Mary and wouldn't let go. But at the critical moment, Mary quickly slipped out of her coat to get free. In the end, Mike was dragged out of the car, while Mary took the chance to climb into the trunk and hide. After night fell, a man driving a snowplow came through the area. When he spotted a sedan in the distance, he slowly pulled to a stop. The car was already buried under thick snow and looked like it had been in an accident. He walked around to the back, opened the trunk, and was stunned to find Mary hiding inside. In the end, he got her out safely.